Welcome to Watches with Dennis, and today I want to have a brief discussion with you all about watch reviews. And I'm really thinking in terms of YouTube primarily, however, it could apply to other forms of media. But this discussion comes to my mind because it's been on the minds of a number of people lately. Marc over with Island Watches has the Islander line of watches, and he recently put out a video. There will be a link in the video description to it, where he discussed how he will not pay to get reviews done for his watches. And by pay, generally what this tends to mean is giving a watch over for the person, the reviewer, to keep. And it is a form of payment. So that is an accurate description. And then more recently, also linked below, there was a discussion, including Marc, on casual watch reviews, going over this topic of what watch YouTubers in particular tend to do, and those that focus on reviewing, and the nature of, like, do they get to keep the watches? Do they get paid? How does that influence or not influence the discussion? I don't want to rehash any of that. You can go and watch those pieces to see what everyone had to think about it. However, there was an aspect that came up in the comment section of Marc's video and during the discussion on casual watch reviews. And that is, I've seen a number of YouTube reviewers who have sort of defended their position. And the way they've done it is they've sort of specified when the topic comes up that what do they do in terms of how they make sure, do they only give a positive review if a brand comes in and offers them something to keep? That's always the suspicion that'll be in someone's mind is, hey, you're getting paid, you're getting something, you don't want to damage that relationship. So you're going to be overly positive because otherwise the well of free watches or money or whatever you're getting may very well dry up. And the counter that not all watch YouTube reviewers have, but a few of them have had is, oh, well, the way I solve this is I only bring in watches to review that I know I'm going to like or that I think I'm going to like. I find this deeply amoral, and I want to explain why. Now, I need to provide a few pieces of clarity. I'm saying amoral, not immoral, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Another aspect is I am not out here trying to watch YouTube channels to specifically change the way they do business. A lot of them are enthusiasts. They're going to want to do things a particular way. I'm not here to dictate any of that. In fact, you could say I have the same problem because while I don't focus on doing reviews on this channel, when I have done reviews, they've only been watches I own. So while it's not paid promotional content and that risk isn't present, I am only choosing watches that, for whatever reason, I thought I would like, so I bought them. Otherwise, I would never have bought them. So I am just as guilty of some of these aspects as well. But I did think it's a worthy point to discuss, so I want to go into it. So here's the issue and why I'm bringing it up, especially for those channels that purport to be primarily revolving around reviews. If you are only bringing in stuff that you think you already like, I think the watch YouTuber thinks that it's sort of a win-win scenario. So they're going to say their honest opinion. Their honest opinion is going to skew positive because they've already screened what they're bringing in. That keeps the brand happy. It keeps the customer happy. No one had to lie in the review or exaggerate the positivity. And so it seems like it's a win-win on many fronts. However, it's not a win for the consumer. And I'm going to try and articulate why. If the only thing out there, let's hypothetically imagine that watch YouTube consists solely of these individuals that screen watches and only bring in things that they think are sure that they will like. What about all these other watches, because there are so many of them, that don't get reviewed at all? And you had the opportunity for reviews to exist on them, but because of this screening method, they aren't out there. You can't find any of them. And I've found plenty of watches I've wanted to learn more about where there have been zero reviews online that I could find. The best you can do is go and get the specs from the manufacturer or the AD or whatever, who's got basically ad text, and that is it. This is not healthy for the consumer because they are not going to suspect that a watch doesn't have a review out there because it's a bad watch. They're going to more likely suspect that a watch doesn't have a review because there are thousands of watches and we see new watches every single week in this hobby and they can't all be reviewed by everyone. And it's not like we divvy them up and say, oh, Bob gets watch A, Jane gets watch B, and it's not any system like that. So lots of watches just don't get reviews. So that's going to be the suspicion is this watch wasn't reviewed because it wasn't reviewed, not this watch wasn't reviewed because Bob or Jane didn't want to say something bad and they thought the watch looked pretty bad from a design standpoint from the get-go, so they deliberately refused to do the review. And that's why I think it's amoral. It's not immoral. They're not going around doing anything for malicious means or to do something bad to the hobby, but their desire to keep things in this way where they can just stay positive means that the impact on the consumer is not being evaluated at all. That's my position. And so I find it to be an amoral stance. And again, as I've noted, I don't have an interest in telling any particular watch channel how they should or shouldn't be doing reviews. But I do want to raise the question broadly to you all. Is it healthy for this hobby if lots of reviews operate on this model? I don't think it is. And while it's not driven by anything nefarious, the end result of trying to only focus on things that we like means that a lot of stuff that we don't like ends up getting purchased, and that hurts the wallets of those consumers, and it's not healthy for the hobby because of that reason. To me, I will raise the question, just how much of a reviewer are you if you are only going to ever bring in things that you know you like? Are you really reviewing? What benefit are you really doing to the hobby? In fact, I wouldn't even need to watch anyone's video who does this approach, because the moment I see that they have a video on the latest Rolex or whatever, I know they like it because they brought it in. Consumers aren't going to know that, of course, and at least in most instances, unless they regularly watch a particular channel. They're going to go ahead, watch the review, make an informed decision that probably will make them happy because the review was positive and the watch probably was really indeed good. But this vacuum that exists by avoiding watches that are not good, I don't see how it really benefits anyone, other than it allows the reviewer to avoid having a really hard discussion. And I've heard that some of these reviewers will tell the brands behind the scenes, I'm not going to bring in your watch because if I do, it's not going to be a good review. But again, that only helps the reviewer avoiding that awkwardness, because it's behind the scenes, an easier conversation, and helps the brand because the brand can now decide, well, I still want the review because any exposure is good exposure, or okay, I definitely don't want negative press on this. I'm trying to get this watch launched. Thank you very much. I'm going to pull back on having you do the review. Doesn't help the consumer in any instance, though. So that's why I say it's amoral. It's not driven by anything positive or negative involving the consumer. It's not thinking about the consumer at all. But shouldn't reviews be oriented around the consumer? I would say broadly, yes. But I can only go so far because I'm clearly not bringing in a bunch of reviews and solving this problem myself. And if you're an enthusiast and you're not doing this for your job, it's fair game to say you want to do it any way you particularly want. So I'm not out trying to change any particular channels. But I do think this question needs to be asked because if consumers aren't being well served, then maybe there is that vacuum in this space, in the watch review space, for more individuals to step up and actually be willing to bring in a variety of watches, noting their biases, going ahead and doing some negative reviews in that process. I don't think we're there yet. I think it's too difficult for enthusiasts to cross that bridge, especially when they don't have the funds to buy all the watches themselves. And I think they rightly fear that a lot of brands will start cutting them off if all they are doing is bringing in watches and then those watches keep getting trashed because they are bad watches. But it would be useful from the consumer standpoint. Those are my opinions. I'd love to know yours. What do you guys want to see in a watch review? I guess I should ask. I'm not looking to repivot this channel and focus on watch reviews. I have very little interest in doing them, which is why I only do them on watches I own. But I do rely on watch reviews like a lot of you do. So I'd like to know what you guys are looking for in all of that. Please leave a comment on that. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. It does help my channel out. If you want to be notified when I have new videos, click subscribe. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, everybody.